Hello, welcome to episode 18 of the Blindsided podcast. In this episode, we're going to talk about the opposite of attachment, how to unravel, how to take a look at and maybe do some letting go or detach. And so, in this episode, that's what we're going to focus on. And my name is Charlie Collins. I am a speaker, a coach, a best selling author, and I'm excited to be with you today.
Hi, Charlie. Hi, everybody. My name is Brenda Hayden. I'm one of the founders of TimeForAttend.com, and we're an emotional awareness and an emotional intelligence coaching service. And we help people challenge their conditioned thinking. We show them how to inventory their disturbances so they can live a happier, more free life.
Hi, my name is Leanda Pringle. I'm one of the coaches and founding members at TimeForAttend.com. And I can't wait to dig into the topic, detachment. Yes.
Fantastic. So anyway, Brenda, last week we talked a lot about having attachments to doing it right or just the outcome. And, and I thought a lot from our last week's podcast about, what are some other things? But I want to think about outcome. Why did I used to have attachment to an outcome, maybe an event or having a gathering at my house? And, it was people were going to show up at a certain time and it was just going to be a nice evening and everybody was going to be a certain way because that's the way it should be for all of us to have a good time, because that's what I'd like to see happen at my house. And maybe it didn't. People came a little late. Maybe they didn't bring the type of food I liked. Maybe they left early, or maybe they brought a little baggage in from their tough week of work that I didn't, you shouldn't bring that in. You should be happy, joyous, and free all the time. So I'm basing my attitude. Maybe I'm saying to my wife, this party kind of sucks. And because I had an attachment, I had this desired outcome instead of doing what we're going to talk about tonight. I didn't realize back in those days that I didn't just let it be. I didn't let go. I didn't know how to have a party and just be there, see what I could bring to the occasion, how I could add value and help and be there and laugh with people. No, I had like a set agenda in my mind, but I didn't know it. So maybe after everybody left, I did a little blaming, a little complaining, like, let's not have that person over. I mean, silly stuff. And I would say, why am I like that? I mean, I had fun and when I let go and I have parties now, because we just had a big neighborhood party and we talked about it, I think on here, and people were putting in the chat, like, when is it? And I'm like, oh no, it's a neighborhood party. But anyway, it was beautiful. I had no attachment. I didn't need the outcome to be any certain way. I didn't need it to be anyone to just be the way they were. And it was beautiful.
Wow. And I've had the similar experience many, many times, especially when I was younger. And really, and we talked about this, or I talked about this last week, I had an expectation. I had an attachment to an outcome. I wanted things to be a certain way. For me, I would tie my worth to whether a person came to the party that I invited them to. If they didn't come to the party, then they must not like me or must not be important, or my party wasn't important enough. So I was attaching meaning to the outcome of that party. And really, whenever I set an expectation or I have an attachment, it is a recipe for resentment and disappointment, because I'm trying to exert my will on other people. I'm trying to grasp from the outside to feel good on the inside. And again, it's so funny because I've learned that my will is what happens up here, right? It's got nothing to do with my heart. It's the stuff that goes on in my head. It's the tapes that play that says, if this happens, I'll be okay. If that happens, I'll be okay. If they come to my party and they bring the food and they enjoy my company and they like my house, I'll be okay. And those are all kinds of attachments that I used to have and sometimes still have because I forget. And I'm glad we're going to talk about the other side of that today.
Definitely. I can definitely relate. And I think about how long are we taking to plan this party? Because this can go on for months ahead of time, weeks ahead of time. You know, we're in our head, we're thinking of all these scenarios and what can go wrong, what we need to do. And we got to clean the house and we got to do all this stuff. So think of how much of our lives we're missing, enjoying what's going on right in front of our face because we're in our heads thinking about all these disasters that could possibly happen at the party that's in 2 months or whenever.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm talking like 3 days before it.
Okay.
And I think that's wonderful because I know my wife will say 2 weeks out. I'll say, why are we talking about that now? I have a different, my attachment kicks in a little closer, but that's cool because wow, I didn't realize that I'm not present in those situations. I'm focused on, I could manage well if these people and people that I invited that I want here, but you know, they're just living outside the parameter of what I think everyone should do to be happy. Because like you plan longer than I do, and I might say, wow, you got some issues. and Brenda does the way she does it. And it's so cool because you were saying I can relate. You know, it's nice to not feel alone, but to not be like, what's wrong with me? It's not so much wrong with me. It's where's my head at? What is my desired position in this party? And that's when we start doing the work here. And Brenda, time for a 10 is like a perfect place to land and say, I had a party this weekend. All right, let's do it, Brenda. I'm going to tell you, I had a party this weekend and I walked away exhausted, a bit resentful. I found myself complaining about some of the people I invited. I blamed like them and the way they showed up late or left early or whatever they did. I blamed them for me not having a good time.
Excellent,
Help me
Charlie.
through this.
You got it. Leanda and I are going to tag team and we're going to walk you through inventory
Oh no.
this disturbance. This is a great one. So the first question I would ask you, Charlie, is what were you having the party for? What was the occasion to have the party?
What was the summer solstice weekend party here at my house for all surrounding neighbors. Okay, it wasn't this one, but I can tell you in the past. So let me just say we're talking about, okay? So I was having a party to invite people in the neighborhood to come and enjoy the beginning of summer.
Beautiful. So your intention, you had an intention when you were creating the party, when you were writing out your invitation list, that you just wanted to celebrate the beginning of the summer with, were these close friends? Were these acquaintances? Were these inner circle people? Who were the people you were inviting?
Neighbors that we're all really close and know each other well. We live in a nice community here.
How often do you see them outside of things like this party?
It depends how much I'm outside. They're outside. We holler. We go over each other's houses. So quite a bit.
Can you quantify that for me? What does quite a bit look like for you?
You know, I don't, over the weekend, I might walk over to one of the neighbors' houses or another one. They might come to my driveway. We visit for a while. So no, I can't say at the end of the week, you know, 12 hours. No, a couple hours a week.
Leanda, do you have any questions?
So in your ideal setting, how would this have went as opposed to how it played out?
People would have showed up on time. They would have, you know, had a little bit more discipline on the children that lay let loose in my house. They would have stayed a certain amount of time, and they maybe would have brought better foods that I like, which I never shared with them. Whoops.
Now, would everyone else have had a good time if they were under those constraints?
How could they not? I have no idea. It didn't matter. I was only thinking of me.
Mm.
You both made a noise on that one.
So when people weren't behaving the way you wanted them to, is it safe to say they weren't behaving the way you wanted them to at the party? They didn't bring the food you liked. They didn't control their children. They didn't behave maybe. Did they behave the way you would have behaved if the party was being hosted at their house?
Correct. That's exactly where my head, where you were bringing me. It's like if I had gone somewhere, I would have brought the right food. If I had brought children, they would have behaved properly and I would have shown up on time because it's rude to be late. And I would have stayed in the desired, I wouldn't have been a pesty neighbor. I would have been a perfect one.
Mhm. So they didn't behave the way you would have behaved under the same
Correct.
circumstance.
Yeah.
So how many people are on the planet? About
8 billion.
about 8 billion. What do you think the planet would look like if even, let's say, 100,000 of those people all thought the exact same way and behaved the same way and acted the same way? And
It would be extremely boring.
yes, it would, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would. Now, have you ever been to a party where you weren't on time, or you didn't bring the food you said you were going to bring, or maybe when your children were younger they didn't behave so well? Has that ever happened to you?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. But when you guys, I realized that I was thinking not of the attendees, not what do you call them? The guests. I wasn't thinking of their experience at my house at the party. I was thinking of my experience. So notice my first thing I noticed is that I was thinking of me. And that's first thing I need to for what we're doing in this session is I need to let go of me sometimes. Stop, it's not about me. It's about offering a space in a community and a gathering so people could have some laughter and just enjoy the company of each other. And how I fit into that is not their responsibility.
Exactly.
Right. And what I was going to ask is, how would you feel as a guest? So what do you like to do as a guest at a party?
Play with the kids. I do. I like to horse play and run around, and we were doing obstacle courses. I have a lot of fun with kids, maybe because I have a little bit of that in me. So that's my idea. And good music. I don't like music I don't like. So, so good music I like at a party.
So that playing with the kids, but it has to be like outside in a controlled environment. Can't be in the house, or do you play with the kids in the house too?
In the house, outside, on the roof, wherever they want to go.
No, because one of the complaints was, unruly. Maybe that's not the word that you use, but that's how I interpreted children. And then, you get a child playing, they don't know how to come back to, okay, now I have to come back in the house and, walk through the house. They're still amped up and they're running around.
Yeah. So that's, the beauty of like working with people like you over the years. And I just say now we had a party this past week. We did have this neighborhood party. The kids were not perfect, nor was I. The kids played inside and outside. The kids were definitely ramped up by the time it was time to go home. And a lot of thanks to me. How each of the guests in my home acted, what they talked about, none of that was in my paradigm. None of it mattered. I walked around enjoying the company of people. I had no attachment to the outcome. I had nothing mattered except that some people came right on time. Some people came 35 minutes late. None of it mattered. I was freed of the bondage of myself all night because the party wasn't about me. But I never would have known that kind of stuff if I didn't learn what me thinking about me was, me creating this fancied paradigm of how this perfect thing should look. So everybody, not just me, even though I put it on them, I want everyone to have fun. Yeah, right, Charlie. You want you to have fun. And they're just pawns in that game. So I learned these things. And what am I afraid of? They won't think it's the best party in the neighborhood. They won't like me. And it's like, man, I lived my life with that stuff, not knowing until I bumped into people like you guys. Not really bumped into, sought you out and said, help.
You said something really important too, Charlie. You're talking about fear. And really, the bondage of self, and we know a lot about the bondage of self. When I'm the center of the universe and I'm wanting everybody to, play along my way, the way I would do it, or the way I think it should be done, it's really just a mask for fear. And you said that. And what is the fear? It's that they're not going to have a good time. They're not going to come to my party. They're not going to like my party. Everything isn't all in, all laid out perfectly so everybody can have a good time. And we're afraid we're going to be rejected or not loved, right? I mean, at least that was my experience. There was so much tied into it. And none of it was about the other people having a good time. Really, it was all about my own need for validation because I was afraid without it.
Right. The fear makes us try to control everything. We try to control the guests. We try to control the food. We try to control everything because we're afraid of what our minds have told us could possibly go wrong, instead of just letting go and seeing what happens and enjoying the moment. When I throw a party now, I just put everything out, said, make yourself at home, and I'm going to enjoy the party. I don't even want to be the host. It's your house. Enjoy.
Can't wait to get that invitation.
I know, I'm coming too.
Yeah. And, isn't it nice? And I notice at events where people that have a desired outcome and they have an attachment to the way we show up. And I have family, it doesn't really matter, but I notice that now. I notice, wow, I used to suffer like that. I used to get a little like, oh God, why can't, and I don't anymore. Like, after the event, the next day, text messages were like, thank you so much. We had a great time. Then I was outside and one of the neighbors coming by with the dog. Oh my gosh, my husband and I had a blast last night. And I gave her, she has a golden retriever. I gave her a treat to bring home when she went home that night for her dog, because dogs are always welcome too. And she's like, and Millie loved her treat. And then another neighbor came over and said, and he actually left something here. Somebody else left. I mean, it was so much fun. And then I realized there are people out there that don't have attachment to outcomes. They just show up. They're present. They laugh and have fun. It's like, I had to learn that. That was not my default me.
Me neither, Charlie. That wasn't my default me either. I was one of those party throwers that I was racing around, not in the present moment at all, but racing around, making sure that if the chips ran out, I would fill it up right away, make sure everyone had drinks, make sure everything that was hot stayed hot. And you know the story, right? And, parties are thrown, at least today, when I have company. It's because I want to connect from here with those people that I'm inviting over. I want to sit down and have a conversation with them and not worry about whether the potato chip bowl is full or not. I want to know what's going on in their life and how their kids are doing. And that's a completely different experience. I do what Leanda does now. I put out what I'm supposed to put out. When people come to the door with the food, I'm like, put it wherever. There's, utensils in the kitchen, help yourself. And I just sit down and relax and enjoy the people, connect with the people, give and receive love. It's wonderful.
Oh, well, I didn't start here. It was a long road to get here, and a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. And I think what happens is the more resistant you are, the harder it is that, you're able to get to this place. The harder you resist. So it's like being in the water and you're trying to swim upstream. It gets impossible when the current is strong. But if you just let go, the water is going to take you exactly where you need to be. It'll take you to safety, right? And it's the same thing. So for me, before I got to this place, I was going through life trying to swim upstream and, out of breath, exhausted, running in circles. And it took me just being completely fed up to stop and reevaluate everything.
Yeah.
So I wanted to then move into one other attachment, things. So, and why? Because I realized I didn't realize, but when I did, wow, that how critical environment that I live in, that my shed is, my garage, my office, my studio, my bedroom, my closets, my kitchen, how critical for me environments are for a healthy mind and for a healthy, good experience, because it doesn't trigger frustration or all these. But let me just go back to things. Why when I sold my house in 2009 and moved to this house, did I need like a 20-yard dumpster to throw out things that I said I might? Now, tools is another thing. There's no discussion. But when it comes to this, I bought a tent, those fold-out cots, all sorts of supplies and little oven, stove thing, and I had it all in my shed because someday I'm gonna go camping. And I had it 10 years and it was great. And I couldn't, I'd see it in there. And then I had to move the old pair of snow skis and a broken snowblower and then broken rakes. But I can't let go of anything because somehow this is a part of me or something. And if I throw that out, it's throwing out a part of me and I'm less than, because I am my stuff. And what I realized was my stuff owned me. And as I started letting go and pushing or donating, giving away, and putting items that I wasn't going to let go of, little lanterns, gas-powered lanterns, like I know the people I gave them to and they have a lot of joy and they use them. And I couldn't do that for 6 years. I hung on to this stuff and it got dirty. Then I had another shed with things in it. Then I couldn't believe it. So I made a pact that I am not going to become that person again, because I am not what I have. I am not how many lawnmowers I have, or I need to start learning the art of letting go and putting these things in the hands of others who can truly get some benefit out of them.
Excellent, Charlie. Stuff. I can talk about stuff for a whole podcast. I went through that phase where, I believed that if I had the right car, I would be happy and I would fit in. And if I had the right jewelry, I went through a phase where I had diamonds and sapphires and beautiful jewelry and a beautiful house and not one, but 2 Volvos in the driveway and a BMW. And then I got a Lotus. Like that hole could not be filled. This gaping hole of I'm okay, I'm enough, see me, could not be filled with the stuff. I remember having it all, right? I had money, I had a place in the Bahamas, I had a place in Connecticut, I had all the cars, all the jewelry, I had everything, a great relationship, it just had it all. And I was unhappy. I remember getting to that place going, what's wrong? I don't understand why I'm not happy. This was what's supposed to make me happy. And it didn't. And then I ended up losing it all and starting over and finding some humility and seeing what was real. Today, I don't own a diamond or a sapphire. I don't own a sports car. I don't own a home even. I rent right now because I don't know where I want to live yet. And when I do buy a house, it's going to be a beautiful, quaint little house that meets my needs, not, defines my self-worth. But again, I didn't start here. It took falling flat on my face, having it all, and having that hole be bigger than ever because more just wasn't working anymore. And starting over with, and looking at life with a different lens. It took a lot of pain a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. And you're talking about letting go. And you know what? Pain is inevitable. Pain is going to happen in life. The suffering comes from the attachment. You can have pain without the suffering. I mean, I hung on to both for a really long time. Today, I experience pain, but much less suffering than ever before, because I was taught by my circumstances and a tremendous amount of pain and suffering how to let go. You don't have to learn that way, by the way. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, it's that mask, right? It's what we show the world, or what the world can see of us, where, everything has to be perfect, and I have a nice house, and I have a nice car, and no one is going to look at me, the real me. They're just going to look at my stuff and, okay, she's got it together. And for me, it was completely opposite. So I started off feeling like I didn't deserve anything. I didn't want to be seen. I didn't deserve, to be loved or taken care of or shown appreciation. And that's how I lived my life, most of my life, just doing for others. And that was how, it was manipulative in a sense, because I did so much for everyone else so that they would stay, so they wouldn't leave me, so that, I was loved. And I never loved myself. And then as I started to do the work, then I started to say, you deserve nice things. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to, and it's loving myself, so I had the opposite where, I never wore jewelry, and I felt like I didn't want to be seen. It's going to draw too much attention to you. Like, just, and then as I started to love myself, I was like, you know what? Put some jewelry on. Here, wear something that just makes you smile. So it's interesting how, we can have the same feeling, but just different perspectives on how it presents in our lives.
Really, I know. And it's like, but as you come out into that, Leanda, and you start am I starting to notice that I'm attached, or I must have, or I need a bigger one of? Because I don't believe so. But I think that's what happens to a lot of us, is that we start realizing I am the size of the boat I have, and then I fit in and they'll like me. But there's another attachment, like the Pareto principle, 80-20. So it's kind of like clothes and stuff. Like 80% of it you could probably get rid of, because only 20% of it we wear. And we cycle through the same. I do. And it's like, even I move the stuff I'm going to wear someday. And then I go right to the stuff I know fits. I like the way it looks, all that. And it's like, I started letting go of things and saying, I'm not going to die if I give this bag to Goodwill. All of these or I go to rehabs or sober living houses and stuff where people could use a nice pair of boots that I'm waiting for 3 more years until I wear them again for some weird reason. But I'm attached. Like, if I take them and move them out of my house, oh, something happened to me. No, I'm now the art of letting go and allowing this stuff to be received into people that will actually use it, appreciate it, and maybe even love it. But what happens once it leaves my possession, my control, once it leaves, that doesn't matter. It's not my job to worry about. I never do. I don't go, hi, I gave you those shoes 3 months ago. How are you treating them? The old me would have done that if I gave you something. Hey, buddy, can you send me a picture? I'll make sure you're doing what I would do. I'm not cuckoo like that anymore, thank God. But I also started looking at things. I had too many things, and they all need work at times. I got to keep them clean. Oh my gosh, I love letting go.
I love letting go too. I was in a situation, not so much, I don't see myself much anymore as a thing person. I don't do a lot of hoarding of clothes or shoes or things like that. Although I could get rid of a few pairs of shoes, and there are some dresses I know I'll never fit in again, but I'm not getting rid of them no matter what. But when it comes to just letting go of my attachment to how other people behave, that's been a really big one for me, being able to let go of that. I remember, just this week, I had a situation at work. I got really upset with the way somebody was behaving. And what came into my mind, I got really activated. I ended up grounding myself. I played some meditation music. I grounded. And then the first thing that pops into my mind is, it's just a lesson. This is just an invitation to learn. And I was able to change my perspective and say, okay, this is here because I need to learn how to deal and let go of these kinds of things when they come up. And what used to send me spinning for a couple of days and have me doing things like cold shouldering or being snarky or not saying good morning to somebody didn't happen. I recovered so quickly this time, and it was really nice because that part of letting go means, the next time it happens, it's not even going to be a blip on my radar. I'm going to be able to say, oh, that person's just being that person, and it won't have any other attachment or any other meaning for me. And I love that journey.
Yeah, thinking about our possessions and people, they kind of correlate. So for me, I had friendships and relationships that I held on for dear life, and I didn't want to let people go. And we don't really have much in common anymore, but I can't let them go. I just have to hold on. And a lot of times, some of these relationships were one-sided, or you had relationships where, people were downright abusive, but I'll talk for me. I would just hold on to these relationships for dear life, for fear of letting them go, or fear that I would be alone, basically. So the most liberating thing that I did was get rid of all of my things, and a lot of relationships when I packed up and moved from Connecticut to Texas less than a year ago. And I did just that. I gave away and donated my entire house and all of my belongings, and just packed up a little, car and a little U-Haul, not even a truck, a little container. And that's what I did. And it was very liberating, very freeing to have the courage to do that and not worry about anything coming back, or, how am I going to fill this void? There was no void. And that was beautiful.
Yeah, wow. For you.
I was just thinking, I think the biggest attachment I had was always filling the void. And I finally hit a wall where I realized that hole is never ending. And I can't fill it. I fool myself by getting a new thing or finding a new person that could possibly fill it. And it's funny, you brought up, I had written down here, I had things, people, and past hurts. Things I need to let go of, things I got to take a look at, things, Brenda, we talked about it, like carrying around the baggage of other people's crap.
Yes.
Because I know how to manage their life better than they do. So I got to carry their crap along with me. Okay. And it's like, and all I got to do is let go. And it's like, come on. It can't be that easy. And then I got to start putting, obviously seeking a good coach and going through a process to learn that the way we were doing it, we live in a life. I know the three of us do. I know a lot of the people that watch this podcast, they're seeking. Seeking is okay. It's a good thing. I'm good enough right here as I am tonight with you. Darn it. Today with you guys. And I wanted to apologize. I was looking down at my phone because of technology and the beauty of things, I can turn my air conditioning down from my cell phone. I don't have to get up. And I'm going, it's getting hot in here. I'm going to start glowing on camera. And so that's what I was doing, Brenda, while you were speaking. I was trying not, but of course you could see me not paying attention. But anyway, that's what this attachment to the void, that filling it will somehow. And Leandy, you said the opposite. You no longer tried to fill the void, you released, you let go of, you place things, and then you set your trajectory on a new thing. And now it's like, it's different. It doesn't need to be that way anymore. I'm finding peace and joy and happiness within me.
That's beautiful, Charlie. You know what else was a big one for me that I want to throw out there because it might be helpful was financial insecurity. So I was always worried about not having enough money. And I was working with a coach, and the coach said, well, let's look back on your life. Like, has there ever been a time where your needs weren't met, your basic needs? And I wanted, my knee-jerk reaction was to say, oh, of course. And she said, no, I want you to pause and really think about it. And I really thought about it. And there wasn't a single time in my life, even when I was in the depths of a substance use disorder, that my basic needs were not met by my higher power. My basic needs were always met. And then she asked me another really important question. She said, you had a period of success in your life and you had money. What did you worry about most when, you had more than enough? I said, I worried about losing it. So, when I had a lot of money, I worried about losing it. When I didn't have a lot of money, I worried about not having a lot of money. It's like you can skip all of that drama and just know that your needs will be met. And so that's been a really nice thing to let go of.
Oh, absolutely. It all comes down to we're going to worry unless we, start doing this work where we can control our thoughts and get back into the heart, like you mentioned, because there's always going to be something when whatever it is that you think is the worst right now, if that gets solved, you'll find something else to worry about. There'll always be something.
Yeah.
So I know for me, like I grew up in a house where, like my father wouldn't let me throw anything away. Oh, I can use that for something. And, he had like boxes and containers of just parts and locks without keys and things like that. And, every once in a while, we would find something in that box that we needed. But for the most part, it was just stuff that we were carrying around and holding on to. And knowing now how much energy is held in things, like we're just carrying around all that energy from the past that we should have let go so long ago. We're carrying that, and we might even be moving it from place to place. And the letting go and the releasing and the just trusting, it's the best thing that I have done or learned to do.
Mm-hmm. I can relate. I certainly can, because I can remove myself from stuff now. I don't need it. We have 2 older cars. I have better relationships with people myself. And when I had all the nice things lined up, the newest cars with the biggest motors and all the flashiness. So I obviously had an esteem issue, or something was going on that I needed outside things to raise me up, because I didn't think I had the power. But when I finally came to, and so I finished like the crux, like I learned the crux of the problem. I learned that my troubles were of my own making. So I learned that it was my paradigm, the way I saw the world from my mind, the way I thought it should be. I started feeling like a victim. So I learned that I didn't, like Einstein, I can't fix the problem from the brain that created the problem. I need some help. So it's people like us that I raised my hand, I surrendered to the madness, and I said, please help and guide me. And I remember getting, through the hard work and then sitting there and sitting in this space that I had never sat in. And I felt at perfect peace and ease for the first time in my life. I was honest. I realized a lot of my suffering, not all of it. The journey never ends. I saw my part in so much of my suffering. And I saw that I could now live a different kind of life with the help of people, a God of my understanding, and a clear path forward. And that's us. I mean, that's what, to me, but I had to do the work. And I don't believe that you could just wake up in the morning, because this stuff will keep showing, like the problem, we'll call it. This stuff will keep showing, as I think it's like whack-a-mole. All right, I don't resent my neighbor. Oh no, I don't like that phone call. Oh no, this box is, you know what I mean? So I think a good hard look until we can break free. We can sit in a place where we can now build we have a foundation, and we can start building the life of our dreams on top of. And that's what's so exciting to share on these podcasts with you guys and our viewers.
Yeah, we're sharing the solution. For me, the most important part of the solution for me was to actually take the time out and really do a deep dive into my thinking and challenge and have somebody who didn't think the way that I thought, because they're not in my head, right? So have somebody else challenge my thinking for me and shine the light in just a different way than I had ever shown it, and show me something different about the way I'm thinking, the way I'm recalling a memory, what that memory really meant, right? And what I found is the majority of the memories that I had, the circumstances that I inventoried, the disturbances that I listed and went through, were so skewed. They were skewed because I was small when they happened. I didn't have a frontal lobe, for example, to process information and make sense of it. So because I couldn't make sense of it, I created a story. And now I'm an adult, and I'm still telling myself the same story that I created when I was 5 or 6 years old. It's not the truth. And that was a really hard pill to swallow in the beginning, because this was my story. This was my truth. But my coach reminded me, but that's the story of a 5 or 6 year old or 12-year-old or 15-year-old. And your brain wasn't even able to ascertain the truth of the nature, the exact nature of what was going on in those moments. So let's try and look at it differently. And they held my hand. She held my hand through that process. And my perspective on all of these different events was completely changed. It was transformed. And then that opened up a whole new world for me to see outside of this little box I'd been living in, to see the world. It's like they say, a beetle's living under the rock. What's its universe? Its universe is the rock. Well, somebody comes by and lifts up the rock. Now the beetle's universe is everything that we see. And that's basically what happened to me during this process of what we do at Time for 10, inventorying these disturbances and getting at the exact nature of what really happened and what it means.
Brenda,
Right.
was that John or Ringo underneath that rock?
Yeah, we're limiting ourselves by, just thinking in that box. We're limiting ourselves to our fears and to our traumas. And what I found was getting to know myself and being authentic and true to myself was one of the best things that I could have done, because it's liberating. It's so liberating to say, okay, well, this is who I am. Because I think that void that we talked about is self-love. It's loving ourselves. It's putting ourselves first. It's figuring out what we like to do, what we want to do, what is it that makes us tick? Because most of us walk around, I can say for myself, and I can tell you what everybody else's favorite food is. I can tell you what everybody else likes to eat, but I had no idea for myself, because my whole identity resolved around evolved around my family or, what I was doing for somebody else. So for me, taking that step back and just looking at myself and figuring out who I was and loving that version of me, regardless of what, was the first step of completely liberating my world.
Oh man, that is so cool because I could care less what other people's favorite food was. I only cared about what I liked. And if you didn't ask me how great my dinner was, you were on the list of people that I was now attached to not liking you. But isn't that neat? Because it still brings us to the same place of discomfort, of not having the ability to let go. It's like I'm very interested in I'm just interested. I'm curious. I like to. I'm open. I want to. Oh my gosh, you like that? Now I don't say it like, what's wrong with you? It's like that is so cool. I never would. You want to try it? I'm a little afraid. But I mean, that's the old me. I wouldn't even have known when anyone else was doing it because it was I know what I like, and if everyone else isn't ordering it, I mean, obviously they're confused. You know what I mean? It's like that's so cool to hear that perspective because I know it. Both of that brings us to a place of uncomfort and suffering, and really.
Yes, it does. This sounds like this is a great place for us to end. This has been a great podcast. We talked about attachment. We talked about letting go. We talked about being able to experience pain without suffering. We talked about what it's like to experience pain and suffering. And we've all had different experiences, but it all pretty much boils down to the same thing. It's finding love within yourself, for yourself, connecting to other people, getting help from other people, and just letting go. I just drooled on camera. I love that.
That's why I zoomed in. So let's start with Leanda. Let's start with Leanda. Leanda, what's your favorite ice cream?
Chocolate.
Okay. Brenda?
Mocha chocolate chip.
Charlie? Peanut butter with vanilla and chocolate chunks. See now, and I care that you guys have those, but in the old days, it's been very nice to be with both of you today, and let's do this more. And Brenda, like you said, oh my gosh, it's like, we could spring off, but don't worry, there's going to be episode 19 and 2021, God willing, and we'll keep coming every week to you as best we can. And we appreciate each and every one of you for coming to the podcast today. This is always going to be recorded, and I'm going to jump down to another thing about we'd love for each of you, if you got value out of this, to like this, to subscribe to Time for 10, to the YouTube channels, to whatever. And of course, share it with like it, share it with your friends or people you think that need to change. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.